Check out our podcast in the next half hour, and it'll be up to date. Well, good morning. Welcome to another broadcast day in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, a private, not-for-profit organization. As always, please feel free to contact us with your comments, suggestions, or questions, and stay with us. Our Reading the Buffalo News is coming up next.
The following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or another print disability that makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org. And good morning. Your Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service now presents a reading of articles and features from the Buffalo News for Monday, August 10th. And your readers today are
Ed Howard
and Ted Pajacki. And we start off by taking a look at the weather for today and this upcoming week. And today there'll be some sun and it'll turn cloudy, which I think it's doing right now. It'll be breezy and humid today with a couple of showers and a thunderstorm. The high will be 77. It'll be cloudy and humid tonight. And again, there will be another thunderstorm tonight with a low of 64. It'll be less humid tomorrow with sunny spells and a high of 81. And Wednesday, there will be a shower in spots with a high also of 81. And the remainder of the week actually looks like it's a carbon copy of today. The temperature will be in the mid-70s with a chance of a shower or a thunderstorm every day. The normal high and low for this date is 80 and 63. The record high was 95 degrees in 1914, and the record low was a cool 48 degrees in 1964. Last year, our high was 89 and our low was 67 degrees. And our weather trivia question, we had quite a bit of rain there for a while on Saturday.
Yes, we did.
In a short period of time. And the question today is, what is the world record for rainfall in 1 week? And this is unbelievable. It's 12.5 feet in Cherrapunja, India in August of 1841. 12 feet. You realize if that was how much snow that would be. Whoa.
Whoa. Almost be as bad as being down in the southern tier.
They can have it.
Well, turning to the front page of today's Buffalo News, the big news is the new Highmark Stadium kicks off the Bills' next era. Buffalo Bills fans searched for the perfect way to describe the euphoria they felt when they walked into the new Highmark Stadium for the first time late Saturday afternoon. Christmas morning, their wedding day, the first day of school. It's like seeing your kid born for the first time, said Levon Nelson, who brought his wife Deborah and kids Dante and Brooke from their home near Hamilton, Ontario. Like right now, my body's got chills, man. This next era of Buffalo Bills football began at 5 p.m. Saturday. That is when fans were allowed into the return of the red and blue practice, the first event held at the new $2.2 billion stadium in Orchard Park. Members of Bills Mafia entering the main concourse looked down to scan their tickets, then up and out into the stadium bowl. Smiles and smartphones emerged. I'm in awe, absolute awe. I mean, I saw pictures, Carol Aronica of Kenmore said, but to come in and stand in it in wonderment, my God. Her husband Matthew has high hopes for the new stadium effect. Hopefully, a Super Bowl, he said. That would be good, but we'll take one thing at a time. The stadium's beautiful. In interviews as they waited for Saturday evening's practice to begin, many fans raved about the new Highmark in their initial impressions. It's incredible. It's weird to say that the vibe, it just fits, said Nicole McKenzie of Rochester, gesturing through the opening in the concourse toward the field, something that wasn't a feature of the old stadium. I feel like the Bills' aesthetic, everything is open. They're all about transparency and just kind of leaving everything out on the field. Was walking into the new place like coming downstairs to open that first holiday gift as a kid? Better, McKenzie said. The concourses are wider than at the old Highmark and offered plenty of room for early bird fans. They grew busier as the 7 p.m. practice start approached. The crowds still flowed freely through the large sections of the concourse, except at choke points such as the broken folding table where numerous fans stopped to take pictures. Several fans said the process of finding their way around and buying food, drinks, and souvenirs at the new stadium went smoothly. Nelson of Ontario joked that being able to walk inside to scan the tickets instead of waiting outside to do it is a bit fancy for Bills Mafia. We're bougie now, he said, but we deserve it. Drew Presbyshyn is getting ready to tuck into an $18 beef on weck sandwich that he'd purchased from a Kaisertown concession stand. The Kenmore resident was there because his brother, a season ticket holder, couldn't use his practice tickets. It's a new beginning, he said, thinking of the challenges of being a Buffalo sports fan. We're kind of had a little bit of a curse on our shoulders for the longest time. The good vibes even extended to the Nickel City alternate uniforms worn by a few fans on Saturday that drew widespread criticism on social media. They're not as bad as in person, Presbyshyn said graciously. A band played before Saturday's scrimmage, and several attendees observed the noise level from the performance was notably loud, even deep into the concourse area. I don't know if it's just with the band playing or what. It's kind of hard to talk, said Nick Ambrosino of Connecticut, visiting with his wife Sarah and children Sophie and Noah. But, you can tell it's modern. It looks like a spaceship. It's huge. Some fans said they plan to spend as much time exploring the new stadium as they would watching what happens on the field with the practice. It's unmatched. Everything looks so brand new, which Buffalo has not seen in a long time, said Mike Rogucki of West Seneca, a 10-year season ticket holder, who called leaving behind the old Highmark bittersweet. The concourses remained crowded throughout and filled with fans when a torrential downpour struck partway through the practice. Some of the loudest cheers of the evening greeted a big-bodied fan who boldly took the opportunity during the rainstorm to remove his shirt. It all meant more time for exploring the new space. The rain chased Melissa and Jason Smith out of their seats, but they didn't mind the lack of protection from the elements that would come with a roof or a dome. We didn't want them, Melissa said. It's part of the Buffalo experience. The couple from near Fort Erie, Ontario, are in their 7th year as season ticket holders. They said they appreciated the variety of food and drink items in the new space.
And in news outside of Highmark Stadium, the Supreme Court's public approval slide is fueled by president's attacks. The Supreme Court has a reputation problem, and Donald Trump's attacks are making it worse. In the weeks since an ideologically divisive term ended, polls show the court getting very poor approval ratings, with one survey finding record low support. The president's tirades after losing cases have fueled a slide among Republicans, notwithstanding the strong conservative bent of a court that has 3 Trump appointees. The polls come with the country hurtling toward a midterm election in which the court is already playing a central role as Democrats try to recapture Congress. The court will enter that season with a majority of Americans believing the justices tend to act for political reasons, not legal one, a dynamic that experts on both sides of the divide see as unhealthy, if not dangerous. We expect the justices to do their best to keep some distance from the day-to-day politics of the country, precisely so that people feel they are getting a fair shake, no matter the outcome of the case, said Jesse Wegman, a senior fellow at the New York University's progressive Brennan Center for Justice. Increasingly, millions of Americans, as we are seeing based on the polls, do not feel that way. The court's reputation has taken a pounding in recent years, driven by a hyper-partisan confirmation process, polarizing decisions, and ethics controversies that include Justice Clarence Thomas's acceptance of lavish trips funded by a Republican megadonor. Democrats have been particularly unhappy amid blockbuster rulings from the court's conservative supermajority on abortion, elections, and governmental power. Those factors have driven calls for Congress to try to impose term limits on justices or expand the court to offset the 6-3 advantage conservatives now enjoy. A Gallup survey conducted in July painted an especially stark picture, pegging approval at 33%, the lowest since the pollster started measuring the Supreme Court standing in the year 2000. The poll showed Republican support dropping 21 percentage points since September, falling from 79% to 58%. The survey had a margin of error of plus or minus 4 percentage points. The GOP drop came despite a term that saw the court move aggressively to address long-standing Republican priorities. The court bolstered presidential power, enhanced gun rights, eliminated campaign spending restrictions, and blunted the Voting Rights Act as a force for Black and Hispanic representation in Congress. But the court also ruled against Trump in 3 major cases, striking down his global tariffs, voiding his birthright citizenship restrictions, and at least for now, thwarting his effort to fire Fed Governor Lisa Cook. Trump responded by lashing out at members of the court who voted against him, including justices that he appointed. Trump called Justices Neil Gorsuch and Amy Coney Barrett, quote, an embarrassment to their families, unquote, after they helped invalidate his tariffs. I'm not surprised to hear that the drop is because of Republicans, and I attribute that to Donald Trump, said John Malcolm, the vice president of Edwin Meese III Institute for the Rule of Law at the conservative Advancing American Freedom Foundation. When Trump and his acolytes attack the court, there are going to be a lot of people who are going to say, "Oh, this is terrible," Malcolm said. Other surveys show less of a drop-off. A new poll from the Marquette Law School found that 74% of Republicans approve of the job the court is doing, down from 81% in July of 2025. The court's overall approval rating stood at 47%, falling from 49% a year earlier. The survey had a margin of error of plus or minus 3.2 percentage points. Curiously, the court's work proved to be more popular than the institution itself. The Marquette poll asked about 13 recent Supreme Court decisions, and a majority of people said the justices had made the right decisions in 11 of those cases. The seeming disconnect reflects a limited attention the court garners most of the year, said Charles Franklin, the director of the Marquette poll. The public is not extremely well informed about the court and not extensively focused on the court, Franklin said. It's the big decisions that get their attention. The poll also found that 58% of the people believe the court's decisions are mainly based on politics rather than the law. And 63% of Republicans helped the inaccurate belief that the Supreme Court rarely or never sides with Trump. Justices have long insisted that they don't worry about polls. The judicial branch derives its legitimacy not from following public opinion, but from deciding by its best lights whether legislative enactments of the popular branches of government comport with the Constitution, Justice Samuel Alito wrote in a blockbuster 2022 ruling that overturned the national right to abortion, quoting a 1992 opinion by then Justice Chief Justice William Rehnquist. Then Justice John Paul Stevens put it even more succinctly in 2002, writing that it is the business of justices to be indifferent to unpopularity.
You're listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, and the time is 15 minutes past the hour. Time now to turn to the editorial page, and today's editorial is headlined, Taming Traffic. Niagara Square and Gates Circle both require changes to improve public safety. Clearly, many Buffalo drivers have trouble navigating traffic circles. It is therefore no surprise that city officials, past and present, continue to grapple with what to do about the issues that come with this often perilous, though elegant, infrastructure. As they do, safety should outweigh driver convenience. Two circles have been the subject of concern, Niagara Square in front of City Hall and Gates Circle. Niagara Square is arguably the more hair-raising of the two because of the steady stream of pedestrians trying to cross as cars circle City Hall. As reported by the News' Matthew Trufillo, Buffalo Mayor Sean Ryan announced that a number of renovations are coming to Niagara Square designed to make it safer for anyone driving through it or trying to walk across. The mayor noted that he has watched out his office window as people, quote, almost run into each other, cut across 3 lanes of traffic, and then I watch the pedestrians trying to enter the square, and they're playing a bit of a game of Frogger, so we need to make some changes. The city plans to convert Niagara Square to a single travel lane. It will add more audible pedestrian walking signals around the square, filling in the gaps without them, and shorten crosswalk distance through a lower number of travel lanes. Changes will prevent vehicles from parking on the brick surface surrounding the McKinley Monument and other restricted sections in the square. Other proposed improvements include adding more like seating, which will make the square more welcoming for visitors. The changes may slow motorists slightly, but that is a reasonable trade-off if it means pedestrians, cyclists, and drivers can navigate the city's front yard with safety. Ryan is right that Niagara Square is the heart of Buffalo, but Gates Circle presents an equally important challenge. Residents' concerns deserve to be heard, but preserving convenience cannot become an excuse for preserving a dangerous design. As the News' Justin Sondel reported, a plan to close off vehicular traffic from Chapin Parkway into the circle received a cold reception, as evidenced by interviews with people who live in the neighborhood and comments voiced on social media. The debate about Gates Circle shifted once the Ryan administration backed away from that proposal. But even residents skeptical of closing Chapin Parkway acknowledged that Gates Circle presents real safety problems. Their concerns about local traffic deserve consideration, but they should not halt efforts to improve one of Buffalo's most confusing intersections. Gates Circle also comes with a more difficult challenge because it is part of Buffalo's historic Olmsted Park system. Any redesign must balance preservation constraints with modern expectations for pedestrian safety. City officials are looking at how to improve the exit and entrance geometry from Delaware and Chapin into the circle while maintaining the historic integrity of the parkway and other contributing features cited in the Olmsted Cultural Resources Report. Buffalo should prioritize pedestrian safety over driver convenience when the two conflict. Public input is important, but engineering evidence, not social media comment threads, should guide decisions. And while the city's Olmsted circles deserve careful preservation, historic character should not come at the expense of public safety. Buffalo's traffic circles, like much of the infrastructure, were designed for another era. Preserving their beauty should never mean preserving unnecessary danger. If redesigns make these spaces safer for pedestrians, cyclists, and motorists alike, even at the cost of a little driver convenience, they are changes worth making.
Thank you, Ed. And after reading that, we want to just take a moment to wish the editor-in-chief, Margaret Kenny Giancola, a happy birthday today. Now we turn to the Another Voice column, and today's letter is written by James Herchek, who's a former Navy flight officer and retired financial services professional who lives in Rome. And Ed, I'm not sure if that's Rome, New York, or Rome.
Yeah, it doesn't clarify.
He's somewhere in Rome.
Rome.
And it's about development, and his headline is AI Moratorium Could Short Circuit Buffalo's Future. Buffalo knows the strength of the industrial economy and the cost of losing one. For generations, steel mills, automobile plants, and heavy industry provided family-supporting jobs across Western New York. Buffalo has worked for decades to build a new economy upon that proud industrial foundation. Artificial intelligence now offers an opportunity to accelerate that renewal. But Governor Kathy Hochul's moratorium on new hyperscale data centers could place it at risk. The governor says the pause is necessary to protect ratepayers and prevent enormous new demands from overwhelming New York's electric grid. Those concerns are legitimate. Large data centers should pay their fair share of infrastructure costs and meet responsible environmental and community standards. But in boardrooms considering billion-dollar investments, a moratorium is not heard as proceed carefully, it's heard as do not proceed here. New York has placed the Empire AI supercomputer at the University of Buffalo, where students are being prepared for careers in AI, cybersecurity, and advanced manufacturing. The Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus is also using AI technology. Regional manufacturers are applying AI to materials, production, and product development. As for energy needs of AI, natural gas already produced 47% of New York's electricity in 2024, more than twice the contribution of any other energy source. Yet, New York prohibits broad development of its own abundant natural gas resources and instead depends heavily upon gas produced in Pennsylvania and Ohio, along with supplies moving through Canada. New York should allow responsible natural gas production within the state to provide reliable power more quickly and affordably, create family-supporting jobs, and keep more energy dollars in New York. It makes very little sense to restrict AI development because the grid needs more electricity while refusing to produce one of the more practical resources available to supply it. Companies are choosing investment locations right now. A one-year pause may seem temporary, but in the accelerating AI economy, it may be long enough to stifle new investment. Lift the moratorium before a temporary pause becomes New York's lasting direction.
Well, now it's time to turn to today's editorial cartoon, and today's cartoon comes from Al Goodwin of the Creators Syndicate, and this is a single-panel cartoon which features a tank. And we see the tank from the rear, and there are all kinds of bullet holes, impact little craters from rocket-propelled grenades, and all kinds of other ordnance which have beat this tank up pretty well. And the driver of the tank, his head is sticking up, and on the helmet it's labeled Putin. And there are two bumper stickers on the tank, and one says, "If you can read this, your drone's too close." And the other says, "My tank runs on optimism." And I guess this has to do with Ukraine's ability to send drones deep into Russia now and hit critical infrastructure. And it's kind of changing the tide of the war, I think, between Ukraine and Russia. So we describe, and you can decide what it means to you.
That's right. And we turn now to some of the national opinion pieces, and our first one comes from Allison Schrager, and the headline is New York City will regret entering the grocery business. The market, as I have noted before, is a small miracle. All these people come together, sellers, buyers, go-betweens, with different preferences, needs, and resources, and they manage to come up with a price. The market clears, and everyone is better off. But not always. When a market fails, it is tempting for public officials to intervene with a policy to fix it. Sometimes these interventions work. Often, they make the problem they are trying to solve worse or create new ones. New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani's plan for government-run grocery stores, 5 of which are scheduled to open in 2029, falls into that latter category. There is a genuine problem he hopes to address. Groceries in New York City are especially expensive because food stores face logistical challenges as well as high rents and labor costs, and then pass them on to the cash-strapped consumers. Poorer Americans often live in food deserts where it is almost impossible to buy fresh fruit and healthy food, or any food at all. Mamdani's solution seems simple. The government will sell groceries at lower prices. The plan is to open in each borough a government-owned grocery store which will sell healthier food at a 30% discount. This is the wrong answer to the wrong problem. Food deserts aren't necessarily a market failure or even a problem in New York. Studies have found that when healthier food is made available in low-income areas, people don't buy it. Perhaps that is a failure of public health policy or misguided farm subsidies. In any case, a government-run store does not fix the problem. Mamdani's plan is poorly targeted. Government-run grocery stores make food available to everyone, including people who could resell it at a markup. There are already programs to subsidize food for low-income households, such as SNAP, which are means tested. SNAP is not perfect, but the city or state could spend the money instead to expand or direct these benefits to healthier food at a lower expense to taxpayers. And this will cost taxpayers. The 5 stores are projected to cost $70 million just to open. Going further, that 30% discount will require some money to come from somewhere. Given the requirement that the stores pay family-sustaining wages and benefits, it won't lower the labor costs either. Grocery stores are a competitive, low-margin business. Lower costs could come from the stores not paying rent or property taxes, but that would also cost taxpayers because the government would be foregoing the revenue. Government-run stores would also undercut private competitors in the area, which could mean less tax revenue. Thankfully, this is unlikely because, so far at least, the plan is to have only 5 stores. What might the city do if it really wanted to deliver lower food prices for everyone? Well, it could relax regulations that make it extremely difficult to open a large retail business and prevent big box retailers from entering the market. Or it could be a bit less eager to increase labor costs of existing businesses. Instead, it has a plan for government grocery stores that is eerily similar to the system of rent stabilization, by which I mean an expensive and inefficient way to provide some benefit to a few at the expense of the many.
Well, our next article comes from Gautam Mukunda, who writes for Bloomberg Opinion, and his headline is, "In a surprise, Musk has no understanding about abundance." Elon Musk, the world's first trillionaire, told The Economist editor-in-chief Zani Minto Bedoes in a recent interview that money won't matter in 2036. He invoked a Star Trek-like future where robots and artificial intelligence will make us so wealthy that work will become a hobby and not a necessity. We've seen such predictions before, and we don't have to read science fiction to know what people who don't have to work are like. Abundance can abolish want. It can't abolish the human need for status. The fight over what's left is not the idyllic world Musk predicts. Musk's own behavior shows just how much he cares about status. In February 2023, after his Super Bowl post drew fewer views than President Joe Biden's, the newsletter Platformer reported that Twitter bought in roughly 80 engineers overnight to build, quote, a power user multiplier that boosted his posts by a factor of 1,000 and applied to him alone. Knowingly or not, Musk's comments echo those of economist John Maynard Keynes, who predicted in 1930 that within a century we would work perhaps 15 hours a week and that we would be glad of, quote, small duties and routines to fill the time. Almost 100 years later, we're still at 40 hours a week and often many more. When most of us think of a post-scarcity world, we, like Musk, envision Star Trek. But look at how Starfleet works. Competitive admissions to the Academy, rank insignia on every uniform, and exactly one captain per ship. And I bet that being a starship captain is a high-prestige job. We can see how post-scarcity people live in the real world, too. At Louis XIV's Versailles, stratospherically wealthy aristocrats schemed to be the man who handed the king his shirt because that was a privilege reserved for the one with the highest status. Why do people in our post-economic class pay unfathomable sums to own sports franchises? Because as one billionaire explained to another in the TV show Billions, sports franchises are, quote, how we knight people in this country. Keynes saw this future too. In the same essay, he divided human needs into absolute ones and relative ones that we can satisfy only by feeling above other people. Those, he wrote, may be insatiable. In 2015, psychologists Cameron Anderson, John Angus Hildreth, and Laura Howland, then all at the University of California, Berkeley, reviewed the empirical literature and concluded that the desire for status is a fundamental human motive distinct from the desire for money or for power. The danger of a society centered on status competition is that it's inherently zero-sum. Economic growth makes everyone better off, but if you move up the status ladder, someone else must move down. That may sound like a bleak future, but status hierarchies are built. Star Trek's Federation is a utopia because of what it rewards. As Captain Jean-Luc Picard tells a 21st century engineer in one movie, money doesn't exist in this era. We work to better ourselves and the rest of humanity. Whoops, I lost my place there. There have been real attempts to create a dynamic in the real world, too. The steel magnate Andrew Carnegie, then one of the richest men in America, made the same argument in an 1889 essay for the North American Review, remembered as the Gospel of Wealth. Carnegie urged the rich to live modestly and to direct the surplus towards universities, libraries, medical institutions, and public parks. A rich man who dies rich, he wrote, will be missed by no one when he is gone. A post-economic paradise requires Carnegie-style norms. Norms like these are set from the top because that's who everyone else is measuring against. That makes Musk the most powerful instrument available. After the Nobel laureate economist Daron Acemoglu challenged him to pledge his fortune to charity in 2036, Musk answered that he was actually going to do something along those lines. His foundation has missed the legal minimum for charitable giving for 4 years running. The promise is always in the future, and even if he's right that we won't need money in 2036, we'll still be keeping score.
You are listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier radio reading service. The time is 35 minutes after the hour. And we turn now for news of the health and finance world back to the front page, where there's a story about 2 UB researchers and 3 startup founders who are embracing this new technology. And the headline is, "A New Chapter in Caregiving is Powered via Artificial Intelligence." Whether welcomed or abhorred, artificial intelligence has entered modern healthcare. Charts that write themselves and tools that can interpret a disorder from an X-ray are 2 of several ways AI has been used to accelerate treatment. Medical facts can be provided in milliseconds. Typing a question on Google produces an AI-generated response right below the search bar. But the patient or their caregivers still have to understand that information and know what to do with it. According to a Pew Research Center study, approximately half of Americans struggle with judging the accuracy of healthcare information, and over 75% have difficulty trusting information out of contradicting resources. What if AI could help with that? 2 University at Buffalo researchers are working to realize that vision for older adults, while 3 founders of a tech startup are marketing a different take on the idea to employers. A patient in her 80s with 2 to 3 chronic conditions had visited Dr. Andrew Baumgartner after she was discharged from the hospital. Her hospital discharge papers, follow-up instructions for outpatient care, took up 17 pages. As we're going through it together, 90% of it was legalese, medical jargon, things that weren't relevant to what she needed to know to be successful at home and to be healthy at home, Baumgartner said. AI could make that transition of care from hospital to home so much easier. Baumgartner, a family physician and researcher under UB's Team Alice, is working on the development of an instruction tool that would condense and digest the information from discharge summaries into clear instructions. Hawen Su, another researcher on Team Alice, is piloting a similar initiative, an AI chat box that would help older patients manage multiple chronic illnesses. It would tailor the treatment plan outlined in the discharge summary to that patient's life. We have been focused on how we can provide personalized health care intervention that is relevant to the patient's priorities, their own life experiences. But unfortunately, we haven't reached that point. Husu, who has a doctorate in a pharmacy, said AI has the ability to make the intervention much more personalized. Older adults are comfortable using AI and often already use platforms such as ChatGPT, Baumgartner said. When compared with a cohort of UB students in this study, they were more accepting of AI in their health care. There's an ageist stereotype that older adults have an aversion to technology and don't know how to use it well, Baumgartner said, when the reality is they just use it in a different way. While ChatGPT tries its best to be personal, the answers it provides are still too generalized, according to Baumgartner. The websites are trained to cater to the general population, and as younger people use them substantially more than older persons, a bias can be present against older adults. We want to make sure that when our tools are being trained and developed, they're trained on information from older adults so that way that bias isn't there as much, Baumgartner said.
Well, staying with national news, the headline is ACA decline driven by fraud crackdown or spiraling costs. The Trump administration credits its fraud control efforts for the disappearance of millions of people from Obamacare rolls rather than a sharp rise in premiums, a claim disputed by policy experts that glosses over the reality that many more Americans now find themselves without health insurance. Enrollment in the Affordable Care Act plans fell by nearly 3 million this year to about 19.2 million, following steep premium increases by insurers and the GOP-led Congress' unwillingness to extend more generous premium subsidies. On average, ACA customers pay $178 a month in premium payments this year, a 58% increase from 2025, according to the Kaiser Family Foundation, while the deductibles have climbed nearly 37% to nearly $3,800 a year. These are real people who are now forced to make impossible choices, said Annalise Keller, a spokesperson for Keep Americans Covered, a large coalition of lobbying organizations for the healthcare industry, including advocacy insurers and patient advocacy groups. But a Department of Health and Human Services report released in June, written mostly by President Trump's political appointees and allies, asserts that 5.6 million people were fraudulently enrolled in ACA plans in 2025, and the Trump administration removed 2.9 million of them, the same number as the 2026 drop in enrollment. There's little dispute that the ACA suffers from some fraud, as do most government programs. The administration said it has taken actions to tighten enrollment processes to thwart brokers who fraudulently enroll people without their knowledge. Healthcare costs are a big concern for voters ahead of the November midterms, and both Democrats and Republicans are trying to spin the issue to their advantage.
Our next headline is Civilians Pay as Russia and Ukraine take the war skyward. The front lines of Russia's invasion of Ukraine are largely stagnant, but in the skies, the war is ratcheting up. We've definitely seen an increased number of attack events, an increased number of casualties as well. There have been an escalation with regard to the variety of targets that are also hit by these drones. Ukraine has long been able to hit areas of Russia that are thousands of miles away from the front line, but the sophistication of its drone technologies has increased rapidly in the last year. In late June, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky announced a 40-day campaign to ramp up drone strikes deep into Russian territory, a push that his top advisor said will continue. That is a significant issue for Russia because obviously the past 40 days have demonstrated that they have a serious weakness when it comes to interception, and Ukraine has been able to reach their targets quite successfully. Rather than occasional long-range strikes on Russian oil refineries, Ukraine is carrying out frequent attacks on refineries, oil tankers, power substations, and broader energy infrastructure. The analyst also noted that an increase in attacks targeting the Russian economy more broadly, such as strikes on the warehouses of Russia's largest online retailer, Wildberries. The Ukrainian government has said the facilities are legitimate military targets because the company supplies Russia's frontline troops. Kiev also recently broke through Russian defenses in St. Petersburg and has repeatedly hit Moscow. It appears to be an effort to bring the war home to everyday Russian people and to place more pressure on the business elite, who may have some sway with the Kremlin, to push for an end to the full-scale invasion. Zelensky has repeatedly appealed to allies for more Patriot interceptors, but the war with Iran has complicated that effort, having diminished stockpiles of U.S.-made weapons. Ukrainian hopes were buoyed when President Trump promised at last month's NATO summit to allow Ukraine to manufacture Patriot interceptors on its own soil. But Trump later walked that back.
Well, our next headline is Mexico's cartels take aim at social media influencers. Mexican influencer Cesar Gastelum was live streaming outside a fast food restaurant when two men on a motorbike stopped next to him, pulled out a gun, and shot him in the head. His murder in Culiacán, the capital of northwestern Mexico state of Sinaloa, happened in just a few seconds on Tuesday in front of an audience of thousands of social media users watching his TikTok stream. As news of his death ricocheted around the world, alarm was rising back home about the mounting deaths of influencers in Mexico, especially in the country's most dangerous states. It's a phenomenon that some experts have attributed to possible links between content creators and criminal organizations, as well as ongoing clashes between different factions of the Sinaloa cartel. Gastelum's last posts on Instagram and TikTok have thousands of comments ranging from sadness to disbelief. One account points to another tragic case that was caught on a live stream. The same thing that happened to Valeria Marquez. How terrible. Marquez was a well-known beauty influencer who was killed while streaming on her social media last year in the city of Zapopan in the state of Jalisco. Federal authorities in Mexico have opened investigations to determine whether the Gastelum and Marquez's killings are related to drug cartels. In Gastelum's case, they are reviewing posts in which he referenced a faction in the Sinaloa cartel. In Marquez's case, the Federal Security Cabinet said at the end of July that according to their investigations, Marquez had a relationship with the son of Ramon Angel Olivares Alaya, or known as LR1, an alleged criminal leader recently arrested who supposedly was asked to have the young woman killed. CNN has reached out to Alvarez Ayala for comment. There's no official record of how many influencers have been killed in Mexico. Local media estimate there have been about 20 cases nationwide over the past 2 years, which mostly occurred in Sinaloa, a state that during the same period has seen an increase in violence due to the struggle between two main factions of the Sinaloa cartel, Los Chapitos and Los Mayos. The fight began during the second half of 2024 after Ismael El Mayo Zambada, co-founder of the Sinaloa cartel, was transferred to the United States, where he was later prosecuted and sentenced to life in prison. Zambada claims he was betrayed by Joaquin Guzman Lopez, one of the sons of his former partner Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, which has unleashed a bloody struggle between the two groups, the rival groups, for control of the organization.
As part of our newspaper reading, we now present the day's death listings. If you need any further information, please call us at 716-821-5555. Again, that's 716-821-5555. And we only have one name here today, Peter Katzis, a music manager who helped shepherd the careers of Smashing Pumpkins, Jane's Addiction, Morrissey, and Backstreet Boys, has died. He was 69. Representatives for Katzis confirmed his death on Thursday in Los Angeles from complications of congestive heart failure. Again, if you need any further information on this, please give us a call at 716-821-5555. Again, 716-821-5555.
Well, now it's time to turn to Georgia Nichols Royal Stars. And if you have a birthday today, and once again we're saying happy birthday to Margaret Kenny Giancola, who is editor-in-chief of the Buffalo News, she and other birthday people today are self-assured and have strong opinions. They think incisively, logically, and like to share their views. This is a year of new beginnings, adventures, and major changes in their lives. What they do now will bring great benefits in the future. So I guess we'll have to watch the Buffalo News carefully to see what changes. Now, the way this works is the stars show what kind of a day you're going to have. 5 stars is a dynamic day, 4 stars is a positive day, 3 average, 2 so-so, and 1 difficult, and most of us are having 3 and 4 star days today. For Aries, it's the beginning of the week and you're up for fun socializing. The arts, the entertainment world, and the hospitality industry are highlighted, but tonight you should relax at home. For we Taurians, we're going to have a 3-star day. We're keen to express ourselves to others today. We will be convincing, which is good news for those in sales, marketing, teaching, writing, or acting. And tonight we should have upbeat discussions. For Gemini, it's a 4-star day. This week begins with a busy, eager pace. Short trips and conversations with daily contacts, siblings, and relatives will interest you. Tonight, maintain your possessions. For Cancer, it's a 3-star day. You're careful with money, which is a good thing. Be aware of the restrictions today and avoid spending, except for food and gas. Tonight, you're strong. For Leo, 4 stars. You hold all the cards this week because the Sun, Mercury, and lucky Jupiter are in your sign. Looking good. Tonight, enjoy privacy. For Virgo, 3 stars. You might be tempted to buy something beautiful and elegant today. However, please be aware of the restrictions of the moon alert. Tonight, be friendly. For Libra, 4 stars. This is a tricky day because in one way it's a gorgeous day to be friendly and sociable with everyone, but tonight the words are confusion and deceit. For Scorpio, 3 stars. You make a great impression on everyone now with the Sun, Mercury, and Jupiter high in your chart. Tonight, explore and learn. For Sagittarius, 3 stars. This is a wonderful week to travel, learn, and expand your world, all the things you love to do. Tonight, though, check your finances. For Capricorn, 3 stars. It's easy for you to be charming and gracious right now, especially in the eyes of others. And in parentheses, this is important to you. Tonight, listen and cooperate. For Aquarius, 4 stars, romance with somebody different, in quotes, different, might be exotic and compelling. Nevertheless, don't be seduced by someone else because things are not clear today. So tonight, you should work. And finally, for Pisces, 3 stars, this is an industrious week. You're motivated to work hard, and you'll be pleased to accomplish a lot. However, today, issues about shared property, taxes, debt, and inheritances are fuzzy. Tonight, enjoy socializing.
And now it's time to take a look back in history on what's happened on August 10th throughout history. In 1793, France's revolutionary government opened the Musée Central des Arts in a formal royal residence that was called the Louvre. Its collection began with 537 paintings. In 1821, Missouri became the nation's 24th state. In 1846, Congress established the Smithsonian Institution to administer the $500,000 plus bequest of British scientist James Smithson. In 1897, Felix Hoffmann, a German chemist working for Bayer, successfully synthesized a pure stable form of acetylic acid that's better known as aspirin, and I'm thankful they changed that name to aspirin. I can't imagine asking my wife to get me that thing. 1937, the U.S. Patent Office granted the first patent for an electrical guitar to G.D. Beauchamp of the Electro String Instrument Corporation. 1945, Japan proposed to accept the World War II surrender terms in the Potsdam Declaration on the condition that the emperor be allowed to remain the country's nominal head of state. In 1960, the U.S. Navy launched an experimental Discover 13 satellite in the Pacific north of Hawaii. In 1977, serial killer Son of Sam, David Berkowitz, was arrested in New York. He pleaded guilty to murdering 6 people and was sentenced to 365 years in prison. And in 1993, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was sworn in as an Associate Supreme Court Justice. She was the 107th Justice and the second woman to serve on the court.
A few notes from the Political Digest. Thai officials say a shooter watched violence online. The Thai teen behind a deadly school shooting outside Bangkok had an air gun confiscated by a teacher last year and had watched violent content online, police said on Sunday, as the government promised new safety protocols for schools. As investigations continued into Friday's rampage, where a 14-year-old boy allegedly shot dead his grandparents at home before killing 6 more people at his school, before turning the gun on himself, police said the boy used social media to learn how to use a firearm. Canada is going to help British Columbia as wildfires there spread. The Canadian government said on Sunday that it will assist British Columbia as raging wildfires force thousands of people to evacuate by providing shelter and accommodation for residents displaced in regions around Summerland and Peachland. The Bald Range wildfire, which prompted British Columbia to declare a provincial state of emergency and evacuate about 18,000 people, spread to more than 25,000 acres by Saturday night as firefighters continued to battle the blaze. Over the past 24 hours, southern British Columbia continued to see fires spreading due to hot and dry weather, the province's wildfire service said. And I guess we're going to see some of that smoke here in western New York.
It'll be back. Yes, you're right. You are listening to a reading of articles from the Buffalo News for August 10th on your Niagara Frontier radio reading service. We'll return for some more readings after this short break. Your readers today are
Ed Howard
and Ted Pajacki.
If you're listening to this publication online, you're probably using our website, a podcast player like Spotify or iTunes, a streaming service like Siro, or a smart speaker. Did you know that we now have a dedicated app that can be downloaded to any mobile device, like a smartphone or tablet, for free? App users can conveniently access our live stream and any episode of our podcast easier than ever. To download the app, just type NFRRS in the search window in the Apple App Store or in the Google Play Store. Contact us anytime if you have any questions by calling 716-821-5555, extension 5. Thank you.
We'll continue now with our reading of articles from today's Buffalo News. Your readers are
Ted Pachacki.
And I'm Ed Howard, and we're turning now to the city and regional section of the paper. And our first story is headlined, Judge Won't Toss Case Involving Racist Video View. Ruling a Buffalo Police Department officer watching a clip is not enough for dismissal. A judge has rejected a Buffalo man's bid to have criminal charges against him dismissed because a police officer was looking at a racist Instagram video during an investigation of a domestic violence incident. And in the midst of a potential new felony charge being lodged for a letter he reportedly sent while incarcerated, Javon Williams has pleaded guilty to one of 8 charges he faced for a 2025 attack on his ex-girlfriend and one of her male relatives. What Buffalo police officer Connor Frascatore was seen doing last July on his own body-worn camera, watching a video of a person vomiting with a caption that said, POV, seeing a mixed-race child, was, quote, not a basis to dismiss the indictment, close quote, State Supreme Court Justice Deborah Hendiges said. POV is internet shorthand for point of view, conveying, this is my reaction. Frascatore is white and Williams is black. Whether or not it was appropriate what Frascatore was doing, his actions didn't impact the case in any way, Hendiges said in court. Hendiges credited defense attorney Mark J. Byrne, calling his position a, quote, creative argument that an officer viewing a racist video demonstrates prejudice that takes away the presumption of credibility or objectivity. Williams, 23, pleaded guilty on August 3rd to a first count in an 8-count indictment, a second-degree criminal possession of a weapon charge, accusing him of possessing a loaded gun with the intent to use it against another person. In exchange for pleading guilty, the judge committed to issuing a sentence of no more than 5 years in prison, followed by 5 years on parole. If he had been convicted on the assault charge at trial, Williams could have faced up to 15 years in prison. The other 7 charges being dismissed under the plea agreement are 2 other weapons possession charges and 2 reckless endangerment charges, as well as counts of misdemeanor assault, criminal obstruction of breathing, and second-degree escape. Sentencing was scheduled for October 15th. In criminal defense litigation, case dynamics can shift expeditiously, Burns said in a text message. It is concerning that a consequential document remained exclusively in the possession of the state's witness since April and was only disclosed to the defense 1 week before trial. The document he was referring to was a letter Williams reportedly wrote to a relative of one of the victims in the case, for which the Erie County District Attorney's Office said it hadn't yet charged Williams. Prosecutors agreed not to pursue the charge if Williams pleaded guilty in this case. This sudden disclosure fundamentally altered the trajectory of the case. After careful evaluation of the new circumstances, we determined that negotiating a resolution was in Mr. Williams' best legal interest, Burns said. The charge for the letter likely would have been attempting to bribe a witness, a Class E felony, according to a spokeswoman for the district attorney's office. Williams was accused of 6 felonies and 2 misdemeanors in connection with the July 17, 2025 incident that included accusations that he fired a gun at 2 people and attacked a woman. Williams faced an escape charge for running from officers in the parking lot of Northeast District Station, where he was taken after his arrest, according to the district attorney's office. Frascatore, who was hired by the department in 2019, watched the video while he was at a home on Hastings Avenue that day as police waited for a search warrant for the residence. It could not be determined by the story's deadline whether the Internal Affairs Division has investigated Frascatore for this incident.
Our next headline is Interim Buffalo Public School Leader is Looking Past the Noise. In her 6 years as Buffalo Schools Chief Accountability and Information Officer, Ebony Prophet Bullock built a reputation as a data geek, an administrator whose work drove district decisions. As the new interim superintendent, however, She says the Buffalo Schools community will learn about other sides of her personality, her competitive streak, resilience amid adversity, and a blue-collar approach to work. She said, "Put your head down, get up every day, go to work, and clear out the noise." That's her mantra. There is some noise to clear out at present for leadership in the Buffalo Schools and the Buffalo School Board. Former Superintendent Pascal Mumbega resigned from his role unexpectedly July 13th, and the Buffalo School Board, down a member at the time and with another facing accusations, picked Prophet Bullock as its interim effective the next day. Later that week, allegations against Mumbega of sexual harassment and abuse of authority came to light in a legal filing. Lewis Mookie Hawkins, the board's Central District representative, is accused of misconduct in 2 legal notices of claim and in an independent investigation commissioned by the board. Over the last week, the larger Buffalo school community has tried to carve a path forward and distance itself from this tumult. Bullock's swearing in on Thursday at City Hall marked a key step, as did Community Forum the day before that emphasized shifting the focus back to students and illuminated the New York State Education Department's impact ahead. The school board has rallied behind Prophet Bullock also. Ferry District Representative Stefan Wright has spoken highly of her as one of his grade school teachers. Park District's Eric Bowen spoke positively about their stint together as teachers. Kathy Evans Brown and Janita Everhart, 2 board members, emphasized the stability and continuity that Bullock brings to the role. There is the stuff that is going on in the news, and there is what we do as the city of good neighbors, which is we lockstep, shoulder to shoulder, pull up our sleeves, and do it together, Prophet Bullock said. We are going to bounce back like we bounced back from COVID-19. We're going to bounce back like we bounced back from May 14th. These are all things that hit us so hard, and we will do it. Prophet Bullock has already shown resolve. She said she was diagnosed with invasive breast cancer in 2023. Then she had surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation, yet never took a leave from work. "I kicked its butt," Prophet Bullock said of the cancer, noting it is currently undetectable and that she is heading toward full remission. At Prophet Bullock's first board meeting in charge, Evans Brown said the interim leader's deep local roots were a strong asset. She grew up in this town. She herself completed school here, as well as her own children, the board president said. She breathes Buffalo Public Schools and the district. I know that for a fact. Prophet Bullock's best-known family link to Buffalo schools is her late mother, Teresa Harris Tigg, a long-time district teacher and 2-term school board member who preceded Evans Brown as East District representative. Harris Tigg died in September of 2022 at the age of 67. Harris Tigg instilled a strong sense of self-belief in her daughter. When she had a period of being a single mom, what I saw was hustle, hard work, go to school, make a better life, and then she became a teacher, Prophet Bullock said. When I was a single mother, because I also had a period of 11 years when I was a single mother to my oldest son, Xavier, I knew that I could do it too. I knew that I could work and go back to school. Both of her parents remarried, Prophet Bullock said, and Harris Tigg was instrumental in building bonds that protected these relationships. It is this beautiful blended family that she helped knit together for me. And so that resulted in a ton of siblings that actually work for the district, Prophet Bullock said, giving her sister, Chelsea Bush, principal at School 61, Arthur O. Eve School, as an example. The interim superintendent is fiercely proud of the academic exploits of her two college-age children. And she said the challenges of advocating for one of her son's social-emotional needs spurred her towards greater involvement in the school district.
Our next headline is Mental Health of Inmate Accused of Erie County Holding Center Slaying is Questioned. One of the men accused of killing a fellow inmate at the Erie County Holding Center last month will be evaluated to determine if he is competent for his criminal case to proceed. Defense attorneys for Chico Garcia last week asked a judge to order a forensic examination for the client, one of two men facing murder charges in the July 4th killing of Antonio Pizarro, age 27. We have some very serious concerns about his current mental health condition, defense attorney Robert Cutting said in court. Cutting, who is representing Garcia, along with attorney Emily Trott, did not elaborate. Garcia, age 49, and Skylar K. Gill, age 21, have each been indicted on a second-degree murder charge. Authorities say they believe that Garcia and Gill followed Pizarro into his cell, with Gill holding Pizarro down while Garcia strangled him to death. Both Gill of Lancaster and Garcia of Buffalo have pleaded not guilty. If convicted, they face a maximum sentence of 25 years to life in prison. A forensic examination determines whether a person lacks the ability to understand the proceedings against them or to assist in their own defense. As of mid-July, no signs of any prior dispute among the three men had been discovered, authorities said at the time. Sheriff John Garcia has previously called the killing, quote, a cold-blooded, calculated murder. Chico Garcia and Gill appeared separately in court on Tuesday. They're due to return to court September 2nd for a pretrial conference. The murder case is far from the only open criminal proceeding against the two men. Chico Garcia also has 5 open cases in Buffalo City Court, as well as another case in Erie County Court, according to court records. He faces a petty larceny charge accusing him of stealing 2 packs of cigarettes from a gas station on March 30th, a petty larceny charge accusing him of stealing an air mattress from Target in North Buffalo on April 23rd, an assault charge for reportedly striking another person in the shoulder and head with a steel ball attached to a rope in May, according to court documents. He also has 2 cases pending in city court for damaging property in the Erie County Holding Center. The other open county court matter involves a robbery and burglary case from an incident on March 30th, in which Garcia is accused of displaying a box cutter during a theft from Marshalls on Delaware Avenue. Gill has 6 other open criminal cases, including 2 in human trafficking court. One of his city court cases accused him of throwing urine at a deputy in the holding center. The 2 cases in human trafficking court stem from August 2025 and July 2026 incidents at a laundromat on Walden Avenue in Lancaster, in which authorities accuse Gill of damaging a vending machine in order to steal money from it. A person charged with a crime may be screened by Human Trafficking Intervention Court coordinator, which typically happens at the request of the person's defense attorney, who asserts their client is a trafficking victim, according to the district attorney's office. The coordinator determines whether the defendant is eligible for their case to be transferred and makes a recommendation to the judge, who has the final say in accepting the case. Gill also has a robbery case stemming from an incident on Fillmore Avenue in October. Gill pleaded guilty to third-degree burglary and has been awaiting sentencing in drug treatment court for the theft from a smoke shop on Broadway in Depew in 2024. The judge in that case issued 4 bench warrants for Gill for failing to appear in court between October 24th and November 2025, according to the DA's office. He also has an open case in which he's charged with damaging a toilet in the holding center.
You are listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier radio reading service, and the time is 15 minutes after the hour. And now we turn to the sports section, and there's quite a bit of news about the Bills' new home. And we're going to look at one of them. It's by Jay Skersey of the News, and its headline is, "Despite Rain, Opening Night Gets Rave Reviews After the Bills' Dry Run." Joe Andreessen admitted to feeling a bit bittersweet on Saturday. A Lancaster High School graduate and third-year linebacker for the Buffalo Bills, Andreessen's commute to work took him directly past the pile of rubble that was once Highmark Stadium, or, as he still calls it, Ralph Wilson Stadium. Definitely weird, Andreessen said, of seeing a place he grew up going to games as a fan long before becoming a member of the Bills, being reduced to looking like a landfill. The flip side, of course, is that Andreessen's new office is really, really nice. He got to check it out for the first time during the Bills' annual return of the Blue and Red practice, the first official team event inside its sparkling $2.2 billion palace on the opposite side of Abbott Road. Just a new era of Bills football, and glad to be part of it, Andreessen said. The facilities here are super nice. Crazy, to be honest. It's a blessing just to be here. An announced crowd of 51,807 fans got their first chance to see the Bills' new home during a practice that was scheduled to run for about 2 hours. In sticking with what had been the theme of training camp, heavy rain began to fall about halfway through, putting the new overhang that is supposed to keep about 60% of the seats covered from the elements to the test. While fans relished the opportunity to both check out the view from their season ticket seats and also wander around to see all that the new stadium has to offer, players used the night as a dry run for what the upcoming preseason and regular season games will be like. For some of them, including Andreessen, Saturday was the very first time they've been in their new home, so there was a lot to get used to. The facilities, I think, knocked everyone out of the water how crazy they were when we were walking around the locker room and training room, Andreessen said. There's a hot tub, a cold tub, which is pretty standard training room stuff. But then there's just like a swimming pool. I'm like, why do we have to have a swimming pool? That seems a little extra. And they're like, well, why not? Tight end Dawson Knox arrived more than 4 hours before the start of the 7 p.m. practice so that he could give himself a self-guided tour of the new stadium. Just walking in, because it still doesn't feel real yet. Just being out there looking around, it's incredible, he said. It's the coolest place I've ever played football in. There's going to be some incredible memories to be made here in the near future. Knox is going into his 8th season with the Bills, so he's well aware of the fan support. More than 50,000 people showing up for a practice might not happen in too many other NFL markets. We've got the best fans in the world, man. I can't wait to get out there when it starts becoming real. Give these fans a show and bring home some wins, Knox said. This fan base is unbelievable, and they are what makes it so much fun to play. When they get doing the pregame chant, it sounded like an actual game out there, and we were just warming up, Andreessen said. I think everyone knows how special the community is when it comes to the Bills. Tonight was just another example of that. After the practice ended, Players lingered on the field for pictures with family members, soaking up the entire experience. Ahead of that, though, there was business to attend to. Head coach Joe Brady purposely scheduled the practice to run from 7 to 9 p.m. so that it started during the daylight but finished under the lights. For receivers, getting accustomed to catching passes under those lights will be a big thing, especially with next month's home opener being played on prime time on a Thursday evening. That's a big thing that no one really thinks about. Catching a ball under the lights is a lot different than when the sun is up in the sky, Knox said. Every stadium is different in terms of lighting. We're going to feel a little bit more confidence, I feel, going into that first home game after our practice here tonight.
Well, next we have Catherine Fitzgerald's column, and the headline is Allen finally passes first test. She writes, "It was a bit of an up and down practice for Buffalo Bills quarterback Josh Allen on Saturday night. The evening started with him taking the field in the team's gray Nickel City uniforms and playing his annual game of catch with the crowd, this one numbering 51,807 fans for the return of the blue and the red. After a brief downpour cleared at the new Highmark Stadium, Allen took the field for a series of 11 on 11. He started with a throw to a sliding DJ Moore, who made the catch, and the Bills' offense followed up with a run from James Cook. But from there, the drive went incomplete, catch, incomplete, interception, fumble, incomplete. The starting offense regrouped, and when it took the field again, Allen rebounded. To cap off this round of 11 on 11, Allen found wide receiver Khalil Shakir for a massive touchdown, and one that came in part from the quarterback's ability to adjust. Josh made an adjustment at the line, kind of changed my route, and it was go time, Shakir said. So yeah, literally, Josh is a freak of nature, and to be able to just make that adjustment and on the fly like that is unreal. For Coach Joe Brady, the play illustrated a bigger picture. I loved how we finished the ones in the 2-minute drill, Brady said. We didn't blink, had great operation. Situationally, it was an offsides, the clock's going to run, and we got to go when the umpire blows the whistle. And just taking that from practice to real-life situation, and then Josh throwing an unbelievable play to Khalil. And we want the ball in our hands with the game on the line. And I don't care if it's training camp number 10 or if it's the playoffs, like we have to stimulate that and go with this. So I was proud of, and from that perspective, how they finished. Some notes about injury updates. 5 Bills did not participate in the practice from the jump. Defensive lineman Zane Durant, cornerback Maxwell Hairston, defensive back DJ Miller, punter Wich Wishnowski, and wide receiver Mac Delana. But the Bills also experienced more injuries once practice got underway. During a one-on-one passing drill, running back Ty Johnson was injured and limped off the field. He did not return. Then, 11 on 11, center Connor McGovern was hurt on the first play of a series. He missed one play before returning, only to then get injured again a couple of plays later. He was down on the field before he walked off with athletic trainers, exiting practice early. After practice ended, Brady did not have an update. I haven't had a chance to get with the head athletic trainer and medical, Brady said after practice, so I'll have a better answer for you guys the next time we get together. Cedric Van Pran Granger came in for the first play that McGovern missed, and Lloyd Cushenberry III got plenty of time at center as practice rolled on. And Bills nickel quarterback Dee Alford was already planning his follow-up questions for Allen, whom Alford intercepted on a Saturday night during 11 on 11. It's so crazy because at first we actually had 10 guys on the field, Alford said. So I ran through the field late, got my defense situated and stuff like that. I was able to get us a check when I saw the formation. Josh kind of threw it right near me. Man, it was a great disguise.
Well, it's kind of a transition time now with football getting its start and summer winding down. And so golf now is coming towards its big playoffs. Next week we have the FedEx Cup. And so yesterday, Wyndham wins the Wyndham win sends Brennan to the playoffs. Michael Brennan birdied 5 consecutive holes on the front 9 on Sunday afternoon and went on to win the Wyndham Championship by 3 strokes in the PGA Tour regular season finale in Greensboro, North Carolina. Brennan's second career victory catapulted him into the FedEx playoffs, which begin this coming week in Memphis. He shot a 6 under par 64 and finished at 22 under 258 across 4 days at the Sedgefield Country Club, topping final round playing partner Bo Hessler, who had a 67 on Sunday. It's the second year in a row that a former collegiate golfer from nearby Wake Forest won the tournament. This follows last year's winner Cameron Young. Brennan's other victory came last October in the Bank of Utah Championship in his first PGA Tour start as a professional. Brennan was far outside the FedEx Cup playoffs and needed to win at Wyndham to have a chance of getting inside the top 70. I don't want to be done playing golf for this season, Brennan said. I feel like I've played the best golf I have all year these last few weeks. Unfortunately, a couple of tough Sundays, but outside of that, I've been playing really solid. This is my 6th week in a row, so 7's a lot, but I think I'm going to be perfectly happy running on fumes next week. The final golfer to make it into the FedEx Cup playoffs was rookie Jackson Koivun, who won the 3M Open 2 weeks ago. He shot 71 on Sunday for his worst round of the week, but ended up tied for 29th in the tournament at 8 under. The first golfer out at number 71 in the FedEx Cup standings was Stephen Fist, who missed the cut at Greensboro. In other golfing news, Joachim Niemann eagled the par 5 15-hole at the Trump National Golf Course Bedmaster on his way to completing a wire-to-wire victory at the LIV Golf New York on Sunday at Bedminster, New Jersey. Sunday's results solidified Spanish star Jon Rahm as the 2026 individual champion, his 3rd straight title since joining the LIV ahead of the 2024 season. He finished a disappointing 8 over at the LIV Golf New York, but with one regular season event to go, he can no longer be caught by second place Bryson DeChambeau. And in LIV news, LIV Golf is one and done in Michigan. In news that has been widely speculated about for a few weeks, LIV Golf's television host said on Sunday's broadcast that its season-ending team championship tournament scheduled to be played at the Cardinal in Plymouth Town, Michigan, later this month will not be happening. LIV Golf was set to end its season at St. John's Resort for the 2nd straight year, but the team championship now will instead be staged a week earlier in Indianapolis, LIV Golf host Craig Doyle said on Sunday during their broadcast of the tournament in New Jersey.
Well, now a baseball note, and the headline is Misiorowski reaches 200 strikeouts, and he is the 2nd fastest to reach that mark. Milwaukee Brewers ace Jacob Misiorowski struck out his 200th batter of the season on Sunday, and only one other pitcher has ever gotten to the mark faster. It took Misiorowski 129 1/3 innings to reach 200 strikeouts. Atlanta Braves starter Spencer Strider reached it in 123 1/3 innings in 2022. Strider is also 3rd on the list, reaching the mark in 130 innings in 2023. He's trailed by Randy Johnson at 130 2/3 innings in 2001 and Garrett Cole at 133 1/3 innings in 2019. The list of pitchers Misiorowski joins is impressive, but it's also a red flag. Strider had Tommy John surgery in 2024. Cole had a reconstruction with an internal brace in March of 2025 and lost a season. Johnson's the only one who stayed healthy, and he was 37 years old. Misiorowski is 24, and the Brewers have the best record in baseball as they attempt to win their first World Series. However, down the stretch, the Brewers will have to balance that drive to win versus keeping their star healthy. Misiorowski went 6 innings against the Minnesota Twins on Sunday, giving up 3 runs on 4 hits and a walk with 9 strikeouts. He punched out number 200 in the 3rd inning, and that was the exact moment he surpassed his workload for last season.
You are listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 30 minutes after the hour. And now we go to our advice column, Asking Eric. And the headline is, In-law frets over questions about religious conversion. Dear Eric, my husband and I have been living far from any of his relatives for several decades. And now we're contemplating moving to an area where many of his relatives live. They are generally pleasant and well-meaning people, and I mostly enjoy their company. My husband's relatives, immediate and extended family, are all Christians for whom winning souls to salvation is a crucial matter. He was raised this way, but while still Christian, no longer believes that it's the only legitimate spiritual path. Early in my adulthood, I had converted to Judaism, raised as nothing in particular, and I've remained observant ever since. My problem concerns being questioned by his relatives why I converted to Judaism. I do not enjoy discussing this. For me, this is a private matter, and have already been asked the question by 2 of his family. I was even asked by one why I did not want to be a Christian. I want to be gracious, and I don't mind questions about my Jewish practices or beliefs, but asking why feels intrusive. So, is there a diplomatic way to decline answering? I really want to be prepared for this, as I know it will come up again. And it's signed, A Private Matter. And Eric replies, Dear Private, one path might to say it plainly, similar to what you wrote here. I treat faith and spirituality as something that's personal, so I don't talk about it. I hope you understand that. I don't want to offend you. I just see it as sacred to me, but I'm happy to talk to you about how I practice my faith if you're interested. For someone who is dogmatic or who has a strong commitment to evangelism, this may not be satisfactory, but that's something that they have to work through. It's not your responsibility to make it okay for them, and you don't have to debate your choice or your boundary with them. You may also want to talk about this with your husband, as he'll likely have insights both as someone who is related to these folks, as well as someone who speaks the same language around faith and religious practice. He may be a good buffer for you in future conversations. Our next letter. Dear Eric, my parents are in their 70s, have decided to move from New England, where our whole extended family lives, to Florida, where no one in the family lives. When they told me, I told them that I hope they did not expect me to take my limited time off and financial resources to bring my whole family to visit them on a regular basis. I also said not to expect to reply to me in the event of an emergency. I was clear with them that they are deciding to move away from us, their entire social support system, and we should not be expected to bear the burden of their decision. I should note that this sort of thinking is very much in line with the type of thinking they raised me with. individual responsibility and living with the consequence of one's actions. They took my response very poorly, and they're not speaking to me. My siblings have all told me they are 100% in agreement with me, but have not admitted that to our parents. Am I out of line to expect my parents to walk the talk they raised us with, for being frank with them about my opinion? And it's signed, Honest Son. And Eric replies, from your description, the comments seem to be outsized reaction by your parents' decision. They come across as harsh. But as with so many other things in families, it's very likely that the comments aren't just about the decision. Is it possible that the frustration you're feeling is rooted in some other part of your relationship with your parents, and it's now coming to a head with this move? Obviously, without more information, it's not clear. So let's talk about what's generally true. Your parents are free to move wherever they want to move. Obviously, any move impacts the entire family. But if you're taking it personally or seeing it solely as a burden, it might help to ask them about their reasons and what benefits they hope to derive from relocating. You might also ask what they plan to do in the event of an emergency, or whether they've made plans to return for visits. There's no guarantee that they've thought that far, but as a family you can discuss what everyone hopes will happen and come up with a plan that works for everyone. You are entitled to your opinion, but in this case, it doesn't seem that sharing your opinion is going to get you what you want. So try another form of communication that's focused on understanding and finding solutions.
Well, now, here we have some driving news for seniors, and the headline is, Driver Assistance, Many Turn to Tesla's Self-Driving Technology to Keep Their Mobility. Consumers, most notably senior citizens, are buying Teslas to self-drive them in cities across the United States. Determined to maintain their individual transportation independence, they use Tesla's hands-free, full self-driving system as a driver assist as their confidence in reflexes and eyesight deteriorate. As good a driver as I am, said Dick Amaker, 78, a retired General Motors engineer from Rochester Hills, Michigan. According to FSD data, he drives his Model Y and Model 3 on FSD 98% of the time. Here's the thing. It will not go through a red light. It will not go through a stop sign every once in a while. I've driven through neighborhoods where stop signs were partially obscured by low-hanging branches, for example, and the Tesla sees them before I do. Tesla's full driving software made enormous strides in the past 2 years thanks to millions of miles in real-world customer use and artificial intelligence advancement. Tesla's self-driving enables safer mobility for senior citizens, CEO Elon Musk posted on July 11th on social media in response to a Tesla post documenting how FSD changed some seniors' lives. Leonard Krauss, age 92, bought a red Tesla Model 3 in 2021, and it drives him on his daily routine. He's watched full self-driving steadily improve with over-the-air updates. He even recommended Tesla's full driving to his 95-year-old brother-in-law. I don't think I would be driving without it, Krauss said. This is the promise of autonomous driving because people do not want to give up their personal mobility, Autoline auto analyst John McElroy said. It opens mobility for every segment of society, not just the elderly, but even the young. Anybody with any disability, potentially when we get to level 4, even the blind will be able to go places. With people in their 70s, 80s, 90s, especially when driving at night, there is a guardian angel looking over their shoulder. So-called level 4 autonomy in rideshare robotaxis, for example, is when the car has complete control. Tesla's system is a level 2 hands-free system that requires the driver behind the wheel. Amaker likes to take long road trips in his Model Y to Florida and northern Michigan. He finds full self-driving makes the correct choices even in challenging road conditions. Roundabouts are perfect, he said. There was a roundabout in Venice, Florida. People call it the Circle of Death. But since full self-driving version 14, it's so good in roundabouts, someplace where many average drivers fail, especially an elderly driver. Full-service driving waits until there's a good spot to get into the roundabout. It stays in its lane and takes it through. On one of Amaker's outings into Detroit, full self-driving exited the expressway near Wayne State. All of a sudden, the Tesla pulls over to the curb, and I'm like, "What's going on?" he said. Turns out there was an emergency vehicle coming from behind. Full self-driving saw that it was an emergency vehicle before I did. It has vision in every direction simultaneously. A human being cannot replicate that.
Well, our next article, Ed, comes to us from it's not actually from your baseball one. It's entitled Home Plates, but it's got about a new cooking show. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is putting his cooking skills to the test with celebrity chefs to motivate Americans to eat healthy. He launched the Real Food Show, a new cooking series on July 30th to help translate the new dietary guidelines into easy, affordable meals Americans can prepare at home, he said in an exclusive interview with USA Today. An evangelist of fermented food, he said the recipes will feature kimchi, sauerkraut, and yogurt. He also talked about cooking with the family as an antidote to loneliness. His own eating habits, in parentheses, "I'll eat anything. I don't have a gag reflex," end quote. His status as a weight loss guru among members of the Trump cabinet, and a culinary habit his wife banned while going out to dinner. The new dietary guidelines unveiled in January prioritize protein at every meal, full-fat dairy, vegetables, fruits, and whole grains. They were accompanied by the slogan, "Eat Real Food." When we published the dietary guidelines, there was immediately sort of a good reaction, but also a little trepidation from the public and from critics, saying that this food is a lot more expensive than the ultra-processed food that we've been eating, Kennedy said ahead of the show. That's just not true. The program will showcase how to prepare healthy meals for less than $5 a serving whenever possible, according to HHS. The series will be broadcast online. The first couple of episodes will feature chefs Andrew Gruel and Robert Irving. The first episode with Gruel features a recipe for crispy salmon cakes with apple, white bean, and green salad. Kennedy's Make America Healthy Again movement promised to combat chronic childhood disease by reducing environmental toxins, ultra-processed foods, and over-medicalization. Kennedy said the show can teach people it can be cheaper and healthier to cook at home. Fast food is not less expensive, he said. That meal costs $12 to $14, and people can eat a lot cheaper at home and a lot better food. But many Americans have forgotten how to cook. It's become a lost art. Kennedy said part of the HHS department's job will be reintroducing Americans to the cooking skills. More than half of all men and almost 3/4 of women regularly cook at home, according to a 2023 study in the peer-reviewed journal Current Developments in Nutrition from the American Society for Nutrition. Kennedy said cooking is not just a way to get good nutrition, but also a way to fight an epidemic of isolation in this country. Addiction, he said, is a disease of isolation and disconnection. And one of the ways that we can start connecting people again is through that sacred ritual of cooking again, of coming together with your family and creating something that's beautiful, that's useful, and sitting down with them and enjoying that, he said. The HHS secretary was quick to credit his wife, actor Cheryl Hines, as the better cook in their household. When they have company or when the kids come home, Hines takes over the skillets. She loves cooking and she loves baking, he said. She's a very, very good cook. His repertoire consists of eggs, bacon, cheeseburgers, and hamburgers. I can cook a really good omelet, Kennedy said, adding he learned it from Gruelle. And then my specialty would be steaks and meat and fish. He encountered his fair share of kitchen disasters, too. I've left stuff cooking in the oven and forgotten about it and burned it to a crisp, he said, laughing. Kennedy, an aficionado of fermented foods, would take his own sauerkraut to restaurants, he said. I used to carry it with me, but I got too many complaints. Asked if the complaints came from fellow diners, Kennedy said, my wife mainly. It's hard to carry on without spilling it, and when you do spill it, that causes other problems. He also does not make his own, but I use store-bought sauerkraut, he said. It's just not Kennedy who is on the meats and ferment diet. Other followers, he said, include Vice President J.D. Vance, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, and Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy. He said they all lost weight on his diet. Asked about the most exotic food he's eaten, Kennedy said, I will literally eat anything because I don't have a gag reflex. I love experimenting with foods, he added. Although he might be a carnivore diet enthusiast, he also experimented with being on a vegan diet. His wife, he joked, would say it lasted all of 24 hours. Kennedy also confessed that he does have a weakness for desserts. I like key lime pie, and I love ice cream, and I like chocolate, he said. My Achilles heel is desserts. And Ed, I've got to tell you, just with that, my son brought over some key lime ice cream for me yesterday as a little treat. So I'm feeling healthy today.
Well, I'll tell you, one of the best things that I had at Taste of Buffalo was key lime cheesecake.
Ooh.
That was really good. Well, next we have quick reviews of 6 new movies that are coming along in August. And the story is that July was a quieter month in terms of frequency of big releases in the theater, but it came with 2 huge punches in the form of Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey and Destin Daniel Cretton's Spider-Man Brand New Day. Both are setting records, with The Odyssey becoming Nolan's biggest weekend opening ever, and Brand New Day beating out Avengers Endgame as the biggest opening weekend of all time. Summer may be winding down, but don't worry, we're not done with box office fun yet. This month features a novel plot for a rom-com, a prehistoric thriller with Anne Hathaway, a movie that was saved from being shelved forever, and more. And here are the movies to look forward to in August, starting with One Night Only, and that asks the question of, what if there was just one night a year when singles could do what they want? This Will Gluck rom-com asks the wild hypothetical and stars Monica Barbaro. In Super Troopers 3, the most dysfunctional group of highway patrolmen are back. It's been 8 years since Super Troopers 2, but Jay Chandrasekhar, Brian Cox, Kevin Heffernan, Nat Faxon, Eric Stolhansky, Paul Soter, and more are back for their newest shenanigans. It opens on August 7th. The End of Oak Street. This sci-fi thriller asks, What if your street ended up in prehistoric times filled with dangerous dinosaurs? Well, I'll tell you what, I'd move. It stars Anne Hathaway and Ewan McGregor, and this one is packed with action and adventure and opens on August 14th. Mutiny, Jason Statham beats up people on a boat. What else do you need? Opens August 21st. Insidious, Out of the Further. Insidious franchise is back for its 6th installment. Lynn Shay and Sam Spruill lead the cast for this haunting sequel. It opens on August 21st. And finally, Coyote vs. Acme. And after a lot of drama over whether this film would ever be released, Coyote vs. Acme is hitting the big screen. Will Forte and John Cena star in this live-action and animated combination that allows Wile E. Coyote his day in court, and that opens on August 28th.
Okay, we return now to the editorial page for the My View column. It always has something good to say about living in the city of Buffalo. And the headline today, this is, by the way, this was submitted, this letter, by Judith Whitehead. And the headline is, "Make sure to enjoy every bit that remains of a great Buffalo summer." Our winter season seems to last so long here. It can last 4 to 5 months, as we endured last season. If you are not into winter sports like sledding, shoveling, and more, you are cooped up inside for a very long time. Each winter varies in intensity, but all are difficult to endure. My son has lived in California for several years and can take for granted the experience of stepping out to warm weather almost every day of the year. Outdoor dining is a year-round opportunity there, and we have enjoyed that luxury the many times we have traveled out to the West Coast. I find it comical that when the temperature dips into the 70s, Californians feel cool and bundle into heavier coats and cover up as out-of-staters walk around in short sleeves and shorts. We on the East Coast are so appreciative of the warm weather, especially the summer we have had thus far, that any sunny days brings an instant smile to our faces. Our favorite thing to do in this great season is to eat meals outside, and many of the restaurants we frequent have patios. Even if it's a little cool outside, requiring a jacket, we opt for outdoor dining if available. Buffalo residents need to focus on this beautiful and event-filled season and enjoy every sunny day we can experience. One of our traditions is to visit every playground in reach with our granddaughter once the weather breaks. She appreciates the sunny day and reports the weather to us. Unfortunately, we are seeing approaching winter holidays already being featured in the stores and online. Halloween decor is starting to take over store displays, even though it's still months in the future. Soon enough, Christmas and other winter holidays will be grabbing the public's attention. The retail industry is so famous for this. And how about back-to-school promotions? The children are just begun to recover and relax after the previous school year ended little more than a month ago. There's still plenty of warm weather to enjoy, as August and September can be some of Buffalo's best months. Our vegetable garden is thriving this year with squash, peppers, tomatoes, basil, and lettuce. Our pumpkins are just starting to grow, and hopefully they'll be ready in time for Halloween. Buffalonians, take your time to enjoy our seasons, especially this one. Not all the summer festivals are over yet. Popular summer events like the Erie County Fair, which starts this week, are still waiting to be enjoyed. Or just take a stroll. Spend time in one of the many area parks. Soak up the warm sun and just enjoy being alive. Fall is around the corner and can also be a lovely season. The beauty of leaves turning colors and crisp air will be here in just a few months. We try to spend several hours during the week relaxing on the porch, reading and enjoying nature. It's a sad day when the porch chairs need to be put away for the season. So, for the next few months, soak up all that swimming, hiking, strolling, and outdoor dining that you can get. Those memories will have you last when the winter sets in. And it will be here soon enough. And Ed, I love the four seasons, but we have so many friends from down south or the West Coast to say, yeah, Buffalo only has two seasons, winter and the 4th of July.
Well, I'll tell you, I think we're enjoying our summer, so
Yes, it's been great.
it'll last for a little while longer, I think.
But the leaves are starting to turn, I notice out the
Oh,
window.
I haven't looked at my burning bushes lately. They're usually the first to go. You've been listening to a reading of articles and features from the Buffalo News for Monday, August 10th. We read the Buffalo News live on weekday and Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. and rebroadcast at 4 p.m. For more information, call 716-821-5555. Your readers today have been
Ted Pachak.
and Ed Howard, and we thank you for listening.
Bye.
If you or people you know shop at any of the Dash's supermarkets, please save Dash's register tapes for radio reading. Our agency receives $2 for every $100 in Dash's register tapes. Radio reading has raised thousands of dollars so far. Anyone can drop off their Dash's tapes to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service at 1199 Harlem Road, Cheektowaga, between William and Clinton Streets. Or Dash's tapes can be mailed to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service at 1199 Harlem Road, Cheektowaga, New York, 14227. Any questions on Dash's tapes for radio reading? Call us at 716-821-5555, and thanks for caring. following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability, which